dropped out of school. A few months later, I was drafted into the Army. Did my basic at Fort Jackson and went on to Fort Leonard Wood for combat engineering. After that, I went to the Dominican Republic. I was with the headquarters company, U.S. Forces, Don Rep. In 1966, it's the first day down there, this busload of people went by screaming, "Yankee, go home." I thought this was pretty funny. I had read about this, and there I was, right there. Well, they were saying it to me. I wasn't seeing it on television. What they told me while I was down there was I was protecting American interests, and I should be, ready to fight at the moment's notice.
Our people are poor. We have had enough of American tyranny. For 25 years, we suffered under the dictatorship of Trujillo. He set up the contracts with American businessmen that exploit our people. The Americans got rid of him when he planned to confiscate La Romana, their largest sugar company. In 1962, Juan Bosch won our elections. He promised us health care, land reforms, and constitutional rights. Kennedy supported Bosch. He feared another Cuban revolution and hoped that profits would make us into a market for American exports. But the Americans already operating in the Dominican Republic disagreed. They encouraged a right-wing coup. For 2 years, we smoldered under right-wing repression. In April '65, the constitutionalists from our wing of the army distributed arms to the people. We seized Santo Domingo. Two days later, the United States sent in 20,000 Marines to protect its business interests and retain military control of the Caribbean.
The 20,000 American troops remained in Santo Domingo through the election of Bosch and Balaguer. Balaguer had the support of business interests, the church, the Dominican army, and the American troops.
¿Qué dice el pueblo? El pueblo te lo dice.
The people say,
El pueblo, bueno, que las elecciones no fueron limpias.
that the elections were not clean. The people are saying it. And what the people say, we have to believe.
Porque yo de eso puedo decir todo, porque en todo andaba. Bueno. Y nosotros no veíamos balagueristas, algunos granitos que se vestían de y los militares se
We didn't see any Balaguer supporters except for the ones in uniform.
Militares vestidos civiles.
Soldiers went with the military people dressed as civilians during the campaign.
En el campo, en los pueblos.
In the country, in the towns, they shot people.
Sugestionando.
Wherever there was an electoral rally, they came and shot at the people. And when they came to the homes, they distributed goods. Do you know what I mean?
Sin embargo, la raza invasora Yankee, Kennedy, Johnson,
The Yankee invaders, Johnson, said that they had to make a clean and honest election.
Cuando los votos del PRD y del Social Cristiano.
That was when the PRD and the Christian Socialist votes were scattered everywhere. In 1962, the first electoral campaign was honest and fair. I saw it here because I worked at the tables and counted the votes. I made the packets and I put them in the boxes afterwards and saw that they were locked and taken away. But not this time. They took the ballots, counted them, and each man took a handful. Without the locks, each could do as he pleased. As far as I'm concerned, the elections were a fraud. The whole world knows about it because everyone in the Republic is talking about it.
Our country is naturally rich. Most of the land is arable. 50% of the arable land is in the hands of 1% of the people. The dominant industry is sugar, and its dominance warps the economy. 1/3 of the sugar production is controlled by La Romana. This is an American corporation, part of the Gulf and Western conglomerate. The countryside around La Romana looks like pre-revolutionary Cuba. In fact, Cuban sugar owners who fled are now managing La Romana. They employ Dominicans and Haitians, who they bring over on barges because they will work for less than the $1.50 a day the Dominicans demand. The Americans have a stranglehold on the Dominican economy because through the sugar quota they control the world market, and the Dominicans sell sugar only to the Americans. The telephone company, the hotels, and the one other major export, bauxite, is controlled by American companies. The work is seasonal. Off-season, the unemployment soars to 80% in the countryside. Much land lies fallow. This is of little concern to the few rich Dominicans who live in Europe and to the Americans who control the companies that get rich of our land. The staple crops, rice and beans, are often imported. 3 out of 5 deaths belong to children, and they are dying of various forms of starvation and malnutrition. Tuberculosis is rampant. Our housing is bad or non-existent. There are almost no rural hospitals. The railroads are used only to bring the cane to the refineries and to take the sugar out of the country.
The repression of the Balaguer regime and their American advisors has been systematic and brutal. Many of the revolutionary women who have been armed and in the struggle since 1965 have been jailed on false charges. No Dominican election without a revolution will be free of American control.
Un ejemplo voy a poner. Cuando derrocaron al gobierno del profesor Juan Bosch,
When they overthrew the government of Professor Juan Bosch, our leader Manolo Tavares Justos went with a group to the mountains. He knew that he would be killed, and he still went. At a demonstration of the 14th of June 1963, he said, "Compañeros, if one day we find ourselves without civil liberties, we will go to the mountains and show our bravery and courage."
Demostraremos nuestro valor y nuestra valentía. Y por eso fue que el compañero Tavares Justos murió inmolado.
Tavares Justos died in the mountains because he was an anti-imperialist.
Por quererle darle una vida mejor a los campesinos, a los estudiantes y a los obreros.
Because he wanted to give the peasants, the workers, and the students a better way of life.
Perdió los mejores cuadros que tenía. Luego vino la revolución de abril.
In the April Revolution, I helped as best I could as a woman.
Y dije que mientras me quedara un cc de sangre en la vena,
I said that as long as I had any life in me, I would stay with our men and struggle with them against Yankee imperialism and against our own oligarchy and its servants.
Nosotros ahora nos falta una lucha larga. Nos queda una lucha larga.
We still have a long struggle against Yankee imperialism and oligarchy.
Pero nosotros las mujeres dominicanas y los hombres del 14 de junio estamos seguros que nosotros lucharemos.
But we, the Dominican women and the men of the 14th of June, are going to fight to the last drop of blood in our veins.
Nosotros estaremos ahí con nuestro pueblo. Estaremos y lucharemos hasta el último momento de nuestra vida.
Until all the Yankee troops are out of our country.
Y acabar.
Until our oligarchy crumbles.
Cuando no quede un latifundista, cuando no quede
And when there are no big landowners.
cuando no quede ya la última
When the oligarchy dissolves.
criolla, nosotros estaremos aquí otra vez
We will be the vanguard of the Dominican people. We will raise a popular war to get the Yankees out of here. This is the only kind of struggle which will lead to a government of the people.
There is a similar situation in Vietnam and in the Dominican Republic. We have been occupied several times by Haiti, by Spain, at the beginning by France, and by the United States, twice in this century. The American people who repudiate the war in Vietnam should understand the similarities which exist between Vietnam and the Dominican Republic. Americans occupied the Dominican Republic in 1916, and in 1965 they were forced to return because the Dominican people who were on the move for revolution were not going to represent the interests of American business. The Dominicans understand that the danger of being occupied for a third time exists because we understand that the forces that need war in order to keep the economy going cannot quietly tolerate that the small, underdeveloped countries take the revolutionary road.